Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Well, every time I do this, I get chills, I get scared, I get nervous. I keep praying all day from the time, I've said yes to come here and speak to you all. Since then, I've been praying that, I always believe that whenever you talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not you or your knowledge or whatever you've learned, or your zuban that's actually talking about him. It's only Allah's amar that makes you talk about him. And it's so beautiful, when you talk about him, you talk about our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you just get emotional. And it's so, like, my husband was just talking about Zulhajj, and I've heard this story hundreds of times, on YouTube, from different ulamas, from my husband, and I've always ended up crying, always, even I try, Kisana, no, ghar jaake ro lena, not now, people are watching you, but it's so natural, because when there is love, when you have that selfless love, it's so natural for tears to flow, especially the love for Rasul. Our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever you hear anything about him, it's just so emotional. It just touches your heart. And sometimes you feel so connected. At times I just sit back and I think, what if I was a part of that era? What if I was there? How lucky were those who had this opportunity to witness him, to see him live. And this is our dream, right? Like the whole point of dying and gathering on the day of Qiyamah and entering Jannah is to meet the Rasul, to meet the Sahabas, to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a greater gift than Jannah itself. Imagine, like, sometimes you just think, what is going to be the situation? Sometimes I sit and I imagine a lot of things. There's a lot of manifestation that I keep doing. I'm going to be there, inshallah, if I enter Jannah. Oh my God, I'm going to see Ma Khadija, I'm going to see Bibi Fatima, I'm going to see, Bibi Aisha. And I start thinking of everyone, jab main stories sunti hu, from if I start from Musa alayhi salam's time, Asya, Sumaya, and so many people who've sacrificed way so much for Islam. And then when I think about them, I always think, Ya Allah, how am I going to face them? I'm very emotional.
We love you, Sana. We love you so much.
I'm waiting for a day where I can give a bayan without crying, but never happens, never happens. I think because there is so much to be grateful for, and there is so much regret and guilt. It's a mixed emotion, because when you understand deen and you understand the sacrifices, and then you feel, what was I doing for so many years? How did I not realize that? How am I wasting my time? How Allah's watching me. All the angels are watching me, and the sacrifices that people have made was for what? For me to be behaya, for me to go out and dance and put it on social media, to misguide my younger sisters that this is what success is. Me creating a false image of success because I myself didn't know what success is. Just like my husband said, it's always the followers, the likes, people following you, the life that I was living. I got so consumed by it that I started believing that this is what success is. One fine day when I was reading Quran, and luckily I got a Quran with Tarjuma. And I remember, when I reached Surah Mu'minun, and there is the whole description of what a successful life is. And I remember when I was there, it's okay. And when I started reading that, I was like, oh, they say, कामयाब हो गए मोमिन, है ना? कामयाब हो गए. I was like, wow, this is something that I want. Sometimes, when you read Quran, there are certain topics which has a lot of interest, especially when it comes to Jannah, when it comes to Jinn, when it comes to, certain topics, you want to understand the meaning of it. And I remember that I was like, okay, let me read the meaning of it. And I thought, okay, while I'm reciting this surah, I'm sure this is what success is. Right now, this next ayah is going to say having money. The next ayah is going to be saying being popular. The next ayah is going to say having property. And the whole surah was over and no mention of any of these. And I was like, the whole perception of mine was so different than what Quran says. And there was no match. One thing, even in my Zamana Jahiliyat, I always call it Zamana Jahiliyat, those days of mine which, sometimes when I sit back, I think, even if I just sit back and think, I cry, because you understand, no? When, there are so many things we do in life which we regret later, even dunya wali cheeze, when you do, when you hurt your parents at times, you hurt maybe your spouse, or anything that we do which has affected us badly, negatively, even after 10 years down the line, you cry about it. So obviously, when you cry about that, imagine when you look back at your whole life, and you feel, how did I waste so many years of my life? And sometimes I say, Allah, thank you that you opened my eyes and my heart while I'm young. Because I read it that Allah loves Qurbani of young people the most. Because we have our nafs. Right now you want to dress up well, you want to look good. There is a certain fashion that you want to follow. There's a certain society that you want to follow. You want to have that rutba, the status in the society. Yehi karna hai. There's always a competition. Whether you have a better furniture than your neighbor, you have a better perfume than whoever you are with, or better car to drive in, and your value is determined on the materialism that is around you. And for a second you think, if I wear a Rolex, or if I am driving a Range Rover, or maybe anything above that, how is this defining my value? Because Allah said that I'm Ashraful Makhluk. I'm the best of His creation. Then how is this car, jo 5 saal ke baad raddi ke bhav mein jayegi, and maybe after 20 years I have to put it in scrap. They're going to just make it some, a ball out of it. How is this defining my existence in this world? But that's how, the world is. And that's how they want you to be so consumed with all these things which are so unnecessary that as Muslims, we have forgotten our purpose of being in this dunya. The purpose of why we have come. And that is what I started searching after a while. There was always in my heart, I think, I was 50-50 good Muslim. I never knew when I started practicing more, तब मुझे पता चला कि Muslims में भी 2 category होती है. वो category क्या है? एक, if you don't do hijab, you don't do falana, you're just praying, you're doing a zakat, thoda bahut, then you're a modern Muslim. But when you cover up yourself, you start refraining from music, haram work, haram income, you want to change your friends, you want to change everything because you want a different life and you want a better akhirah. So you become an extremist. Because this is what people have told me. Oh, my khala, she's exactly like you. She's an extreme Muslim. I was like, become like your khala. I was like, not like me, become like your khala. She's right. So, that is the perception that people have, unfortunately. They feel just praying 5 times a day is enough. Because I realized that just praying 5 times a day didn't change me completely. Yeah, I had a sense of right and wrong, and because I realized, you realize when you don't pray, when do you ask to Allah for Siratul Mustaqim ka rasta? It's only when you pray, na? When you pray and when you recite Alhamdulillah,